Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I am Rob Bunting of Cincinnati Marketing Group, and today I'm going to be going through the Grow with Google presentation, learn the basics of Google Ads. So this presentation was developed by Google. So the slides were all done by Google. And the Grow with Google program, which I'm going to talk about a little bit more at the end, is a program where Google seeks to educate the general business community and the public about different topics. So today we're going to do a very basic presentation on Google Ads, which for years was called Google AdWords. So if you want to learn more about the Grow with Google program, you can go to grow.google/small businesses, and you can see some of the other workshops and resources that Google has for small businesses as part of the Grow with Google program. So here's our agenda for today. And this presentation should be about 45 minutes plus Q&A. Firstly, we're going to talk about advertising on Google. How can you use Google Ads to grow your business? Improving your ads, some tips for how to write great ad text, refine keywords, and incorporate ad extensions. Measuring success, understand how your ads support your business goals. And we'll have a little recap and some additional resources for you at the end. So again, those of you that are on the call live, feel free to type a question in the chat. And if I stop to ask for questions, you can go ahead and ask a question then, or we can cover it at the end in the Q&A. So advertising on Google. Google Ads can help businesses large and small. And that I think is one key point to make today is that Google Ads is for all sizes and types of organizations. Unlike some forms of digital advertising, there are no minimums when doing Google Ads. If you only wanted to spend $5 a day to target an area 10 miles around your business, you could do that in Google Ads. 49% of shoppers surveyed say they use Google to discover or find a new item or product. 59% of shoppers surveyed say they use Google to research a purchase they plan to make in store or online. So sometimes when people use Google, they are researching products or services. Sometimes they're ready to buy. They might be in different stages of the process, or what we in marketing call the marketing funnel or sales funnel. So that's something to think about as you create an ad strategy. So how ads work on Google search. When most people think of Google Ads, they probably think of Google search first and foremost. Somebody wants to find something. So she searches Google to find an answer, and businesses bid for opportunities to show her relevant ads. And then the ads appear in Google's results, and advertisers pay if she clicks the ad. This little green, yellow, blue thing right here, that's the Google Ads logo these days. And here in this image, they're showing an example of where ads would show up in Google search, typically at above the organic or free search results on a Google search results page, and also at the bottom. After 8 to 10 organic listings, you might find 3 more ads on the Google search results page. So when you do ads in Google search, you're trying to get them in Google itself for different keywords that you are targeting. And you typically only pay if people click. And that's why this is often referred to as pay per click or PPC advertising. If you don't pay for impressions, you just pay for clicks. So it can be very efficient. There are many different ad formats in Google Ads and different types of campaigns that folks can run. This presentation primarily deals with search. So the ads that appear in search are primarily text ads. Image ads is the fancy word that Google uses for what most people call banner ads or display advertising. So if you think a 468 by 60 pixel banner ad or a 300 by 250 banner, a lot of people don't realize that Google, in addition to being the #1 search engine, also is the largest online ad network in the US. So Google serves ads on a couple million different websites and sells the unsold inventory that those publishers can't sell directly. So many of the ads that you might see online in a given day are actually being served through Google Ads themselves. So that's another ad format that you could possibly do in Google Ads. Shopping ads And in this little snippet right here, these would be what they're representing by what shopping ads would look like. A shopping ad has a image of a specific product with the price, the name of the product, and the merchant. So, for example, if I did a search for succulents, succulents for sale, or maybe a particular plant. Um, or, for example, another example might be AAA batteries. If I did a search for AAA batteries, it would show me different pictures of AAA batteries for sale at different merchants with a price and a product image. And I could click right on that and go right to that product. So that's called a shopping ad, and those are done through Google Merchant Center. You put up a data feed of your products in the Google Merchant Center, and it serves up shopping ads that have a product image and price. Dynamic search ads um, are ads where you can have a dynamically generated headline or text. Basically, you tell Google, I want to run ads to such and such page or such and such section of my website, and Google will automatically, dynamically generate text for that ad and display that ad and send people to that page. You don't have to pick the keywords or even write the text. And yes, that's as crazy as it sounds, but that's common these days, a dynamic search ad. A call only ad would be an ad that's on a mobile phone and people click on it and call. So if you think about Google these days, over 60% of Google searches are actually done on a mobile phone. So if an advertiser wanted phone calls, they could connect their ad to their phone number. When a person does a Google search, they see the ad and a phone number, and there's a little phone icon that appears on their mobile phone. They can click it and call instead of clicking through and going to the website. So, for example, one of my clients is Wrecker and Berger here locally. They do heating and air repair and so forth. So they love phone calls. So in that case, if someone goes in, types in HVAC repair near me, Wrecker and Berger ad appears with a phone number. Person clicks it, the call goes right to Wrecker and Berger. So that's a call only ad. People can't click through and go to the site; they can only call. A video ad, for example, um, could be simply a 15 or a 30-second commercial or a 6-second commercial that someone might be running on TV. You just run it online, and you upload your video to YouTube, which of course is owned by Google, and Google serves up the commercial just like they would a banner ad. It could be on YouTube itself or any other website. So here locally in Cincinnati, maybe you're on the WCPO.com website checking out the news or how pathetic the Reds are doing lately, and you see a 6-second commercial for Jake Sweeney Chevrolet, for example. That probably was a video ad. If it wasn't purchased directly from WCPO, it was probably purchased through Google Ads. So there's many different kinds of ads that you can run through Google Ads, not just search ads. This workshop, like I said earlier, focuses on text ads because we're really going to focus on search and not some of the other forms of campaigns. But if you ever have questions about those, please feel free to contact me. We could talk about those separately. But in pay-per-click, as I mentioned earlier, advertisers pay only when searchers click an ad. So, and then this is an example of what an ad might look like for the Spice House. This is a company that sells spices. So these blue things that say essential spices, order spices online, those are headlines. And then the text after that, the 2 lines of text are called description lines. And then these phrases that say flat packs ship free, online orders, free shipping 49 plus, those are what are called call out extensions. And then this here where it says contact us and has some text, spice blends and has some text, these are called site link extensions. And those can be links to specific pages at the website. So in this example for essential spices, these headlines might link to the homepage. And right here where it says spice blends, that probably links to a page with just spice blends on their website. So for Little Prince, maybe we'd have an ad, buy plants online that goes to the Little Prince homepage, but then maybe we might have site links to specific plant categories so that we could kind of drive people to the appropriate page as they see fit. So And again, you only pay when people click. So if someone sees your ad and doesn't click, it doesn't cost you anything. Um, you need a Google account to do this. Um, One thing, if you don't have a Google account, you can sign up for free at accounts.google.com/sign up. One key piece of advice that isn't particularly mentioned in the copy here, but I want to mention it now. I strongly suggest you try to use the same Google account for all your different Google services. That will make your life a whole lot easier and will enable you to do some things that will be very hard or impossible to do if you use different accounts. So, for example, if you're using Google Analytics and Google Ads and Gmail, you probably want to try and use the same Google account for all of those. That way, it'll make it easier to link them together. And otherwise, you'd have to log into one service and then log out of it to log into your ad account, for example, if you use different email addresses. So you will need a Google account to do Google Ads. To Google Ads, to set up Google Ads, you could go to g.co/ads and click Start Now in the upper right. Another way to get there would be ads.google.com, which is usually how I refer to it. Analytics, by the way, Google Analytics is usually analytics.google.com, but g.co works just as well. And then you would follow the prompts to enter in your business info, your first ad, and billing info. The first step. Now, the next 8 or 9 slides are specifically how to do a smart campaign. So I just want to mention that. So as it says on this slide, if you try to create a new account from scratch, the smart campaign mode is the default setting. And right here by my head, you can see in very small print, it says, "Are you a professional marketer? Switch to expert mode." So that's what I'm in every day. If you find yourself in Google Ads and you think that there's things missing or that you can't see things that you think you should be able to see, you're probably in smart mode, or I think they call it simple mode. You want to be in expert mode to see all the different options. So the reason I mention that, the next 7 or 8 slides are for a smart campaign specifically. Google used to have a product called AdWords Express, which was designed for very small businesses. And in essence, AdWords Express has been replaced by what they call smart campaigns. So if you try to create a Google account from scratch and create a campaign, it's going to walk you through automatically doing a smart campaign. That's different from a traditional search campaign, which we'll talk about that in a couple of slides. But a smart campaign, the advantages of it, it's very quick to set up, and the system automatically manages your ads for you. So those are the advantages of a smart campaign. But just want to mention the key difference there between a smart campaign and a traditional search campaign. So in a smart campaign, you would first enter your business name in the field. Step 3, you would put in your address, your web address. If you selected a goal, remember earlier I showed you the goal page. I think we've got that coming up actually. You could, if you were trying to drive people to your site, it'll probably ask you for your business information as well, your street address. Typically in a smart campaign, most people would send people to their homepage, but if you've got a more specific or relevant page for whatever you're advertising, you could send folks to that. So in Google, both in a smart campaign and in a search campaign, ads have 3 headlines and 2 description lines. And then you have the option to also include a clickable phone number. As I mentioned earlier, with a call only ad, people can only call. But in a smart campaign and also in search, you could add your phone number as an extension, and you could people could either click or call. So Tom's question was, what was step 2? Step 2 was enter your business name, Tom. So you would, step 1 would be select a goal. And so, for example, if it was get more visits to your physical location, that would be where you'd probably want to put your address. In this example, we're doing website sales. So step 2 is enter your business name. Step 3, your address or your web address. Step 4 is where you would write the ad. So as you write an ad in Google Ads, on the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see fields for headline 1, headline 2, headline 3, and headlines are limited to 30 characters. That is to say letters and spaces. So you can't go over 30 characters in a headline. So in this example, the space, spice, space, house is 15 characters. As you type in headlines and descriptions, there's a little counter here to guide you so that you don't go over 30 characters for a headline or 90 characters for a description. Okay. And then in this case, you can add a call button and a phone number. So since the Spice House is in Chicago and they've got a brick and mortar location, and they do want phone calls, they clicked the button to have a call button and put in their phone number. Step 5, add keyword themes. So keyword themes, I try to like their themes are kind of buckets of keywords around your service. In a smart campaign, you can edit up to 10 keyword themes. You cannot put in more than 10. And in a smart campaign, you only have one ad per bucket of words. So that's a major limitation of smart campaigns versus traditional search campaigns. So just so we're aware. So in this example, the Spice House picked keyword themes: spice store, online spice store, organic spices, sweet spices, savory spices. As you pick keywords here, it'll give you other suggestions that you can either choose. You could say, yes, I want that, or just no, you don't. But you can enter up to 10 here as keyword themes. Step 6, you would select the location of your ad campaign, which is so Google will display your ad only in the areas that you select. In this example, they put in their street address in Chicago, and this little slider right here starts at 3 miles and goes to 40 miles, and they set it at 25. So this is a 25-mile radius around their physical location. So they've chosen that for the location. Other options for choosing locations could be zip codes, cities, regions, or an address. You could do a DMA or designated market area. You could do county, and you could do any combinations of these. So, for example, I've had an advertiser tell me, okay, 90% of our customers come from these 20 zip codes. So I can paste those 20 zip codes into Google and say, I only want to run my ads in these 20 zip codes, for example. State, it doesn't say state, but that's what it means by region. By region, it means a state or a province in Canada, or a state or province in another country, and so forth. And by the way, Google Ads works all around the world. So it's not just the United States. So you've got lots of different options for a location. Many times brick and mortar clients do like the idea of putting in a street address and then doing a radius. Also, by the way, you could exclude certain areas within that region. So for example, if this advertiser has a 25-mile radius of Chicago, but for whatever reason there were different zip codes they wanted to exclude, they could enter those in manually and put them on the exclude list, and you'd see little red splotches here within this blue circle of that was being excluded. So I could do Ohio, I could do the Cincinnati DMA, I could do Hamilton, Butler, and Warren County, and exclude all the others around it. So if I know I only serve Hamilton, Butler, and Warren counties, I could not waste my money by running ads in other counties. So there's a and I will say in a search campaign, you've got a lot more control than you do in a smart campaign. So there's lots of options there. So step 7 in setting up a smart campaign is you select a budget recommendation, or you can enter your own. Based on the keyword themes that you selected and your geographic location that you selected, Google is going to recommend a budget range, but you could enter in your own budget if you didn't like what they suggested. And then when you do that, it's going to give you an estimate of daily clicks. And of course, you can pause or change your budget at any time. So if you wanted to spend $500 a month and you want your ad campaign to run 7 days a week, you might choose to set your daily budget at, say, $17 a day or $16 a day, so that you would end up spending around $500. And you can change your budget whenever you'd like. So to finish up, you would review your campaign, enter your payment info, which would be either a credit card or bank account information, and then you could set up optional conversion tracking. If you're already, probably the easiest way for most people to do conversion tracking is if they're already using Google Analytics, you want to link your Google Analytics account with your Google Ads account and import any goals that you have in analytics into AdWords, into Google Ads. So when we say the term conversion in the marketing industry, we refer to that as somebody taking the action that we wanted them to take once they click through. So in the case of the Spice House or another merchant, that would be make a purchase. If it's a B2B advertiser, it could be fill out a form to request a demo or a sales call, contact us form. It could be sign up for a newsletter, whatever. But that way you can track your conversions, your goals, your actions back to your ad campaign. And then also here on the screen, you'll notice it says download the mobile app. There is a Google Ads app that you can download for either Android or iOS. And Google support is available 1-866-2-Google, 1-866-246-6453 is the Google Ads support number. And if you needed additional help, they could call you and help you. Or pardon me, you could call them and they could help you. So that's the step to set up a smart campaign. And I'm going to go one or two more slides here, and then I'm going to stop to ask if anybody has any questions. So managing your ad campaign, you can review your performance. You can edit your keyword themes and search phrases. You could edit your ads. You could write additional ads. I said in a smart campaign, you can do one. I think you can actually write 2 or 3 ads now in a smart campaign. It used to be you can only do one, but it's still very limited. In a traditional search campaign, you can have as many ads as you want. You can control where and when your ads appear. You can manage your ad budget. All these things can be changed 24/7 whenever you want to, right in the Google Ads interface. And you can make a few changes via the app, such as pausing campaigns, pausing keywords, changing the budget, things of that nature can be done from the app. So one last slide, and then I'm going to ask if anybody has any questions. This slide here has a good overview of the difference between smart campaigns and a traditional search campaign. In terms of bidding, smart campaign bidding is automated. In other words, the system itself is going to set your bids for you so that you can maximize however many clicks you can get for your budget. In a search campaign, you can control your bid for each individual keyword. You could raise them up and down. You've got a lot more flexibility in terms of bidding. In terms of ad extensions, again, in a smart campaign, those are automated. In a search campaign, those are advertiser managed. You can write those and edit those. Keyword creation, again, automated in a search campaign. You can give it up to 10 themes, but outside of that, Google Ads is going to pick whatever keywords you run on or your ads appear on based on what they think is best for you. In a search campaign, you've got much more ability to manage that. You can add negative keywords and that type of thing. So keyword editing, you can manage your themes in a smart campaign, but that's it. In a search campaign, advertisers can edit individual keywords. The reporting in a smart campaign, you have a simplified dashboard that highlights important stats. In a search campaign, there are more detailed reports for campaign, ad group, ad keywords, and search themes. Where ads show, again, in a smart campaign that's automated, and where ads show is a little more managed in a search campaign. And what they mean by where ads show is not so much geographically, but in Google search results or anywhere else on the Google display network. And then landing pages, you get one landing page in a smart campaign. In a search campaign, you can have multiple landing pages. So for an e-merchant like Little Prince that's on the call, you could have 20 different, in one campaign in search, you could have 30 different ad groups for 30 different product types, and then each ad would go to specific product types. You can't do that in smart. You would only have one landing page for a smart campaign. So a search campaign would be much probably better in that instance. So that is how you create a smart campaign in Google Ads and some of the key differences. So I know I covered a lot there. Does anybody have a question? You could unmute for a second and ask it, or go ahead and type it into the chat.
kind of a rule of thumb, like if
Okay.
you're a nonprofit and your primary objective, say, is to get people to the donate page.
Okay. So
So go ahead.
okay. Yeah. No, good question, Robbie. Yeah. So, as a matter of fact, since we do have folks from a nonprofit on the call, a nonprofit, if they're in a Google for Nonprofits program and have a Google ad grant from it, they can only do a search campaign. So, that's the only option. The other options won't work. Google won't let them do them. So, you can't even do a smart campaign. You can only do search. So, for nonprofits specifically that have an ad grant account, search is the only option because that's all Google will allow you to do. If they wanted to do another kind of campaign, they'd have to pay for it in a traditional Google Ads account. I think the rule of thumb would be if you're a really small business that has a limited product or service offering in a limited area, particularly if they have a physical location, like in this example, the Spice House that has a brick and mortar in Chicago, a smart campaign might benefit them. Outside of that, I would probably go a traditional search campaign. So I think the general rule of thumb would be if you're really small and if you're new to this, a smart campaign might be a good way to start. And then as you get more comfortable with how Google Ads works, or if you have a larger, set of ambitions or ad creative, I'd branch out from there. One real limitation with respect to Google Ads for a lot of smaller businesses is many businesses don't have a TV commercial they could run in a video campaign, or they don't have banner ads that they could run in a display campaign. If they don't sell physical products, a shopping campaign wouldn't be appropriate. So I think for most companies, mostly what I run for my clients are search campaigns, but in some cases, smart campaigns are a good first step. Or if you're really small, they might be the better option for you. And I think that's why in this presentation, which is really geared to the general public who doesn't have any experience or knowledge of Google Ads, that's why they're really presenting a smart campaign in this presentation. So I hope that answers the question well. I don't necessarily think there's a right or rule, but I think those would be some of my suggestions or general. I think the question was rule of thumb. So there you go. Any other questions, real quick, before we move on? Thank you for that, Robbie.
I have another question too, but I can wait if somebody else has a question.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, fire away, Robbie. What's your other question?
Is there anyone on the call, or Rob, do you have experience in the Google AdWord grant account and how onerous or how what's that process look like to apply for that?
Okay, so good question. Yes, you could go to google.com/nonprofits. You would sign up for the Google for Nonprofits program first. If you're approved for that, you can then get a Google ad grant, and you would open up a Google ad account and you can only do a search campaign. You cannot bid more than $2 per keyword, typically in an ad grant account. So the process is pretty simple. Like I said, just go to google.com/nonprofits. You have to enter in your 501c3 registration number and a little bit of other information. And then it goes to Google. And then if you're approved, you get an email, and in the email, there's a link to create a Google Ads account. So it's pretty straightforward. I hope that answers your question. But if you go to Google, the Google for Nonprofits page, it has more information on that. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
So now we're going to talk about creating a search campaign. So as you in Google Ads, when you click the blue create a new campaign button, it'll actually now give you 8 options. This presentation was created in December 2020. So as we're filming this, it's July 2021. And I mention that because somebody might be watching this 5 years from now, and this screen might look totally different. It already looks a little different from what's displayed here. But when you click the new campaign button in Google Ads, you get 8 options, the first of which is search, which is what we're mostly going to talk about today. There's also display, shopping, video, and I mentioned most of these earlier, smart, discovery, there's app, and one other one I can't think of right now. But anyway, so a search campaign to run ads in Google search is you would select your campaign settings, you'd set up your ad groups, create some ads, and review and launch it. So we went through how to create a smart campaign, and I wish it had a couple of slides on actually how to do a search campaign. But one thing I will say is when it says select your campaign settings, it's just slightly more involved than what it looked like earlier in a smart campaign. When you create a search campaign, you'll have a campaign name, a budget. You would enter in the location, which could be cities or zips or a radius around a street address or a zip code. You would then create your first ad group. Again, an ad group is a group of keywords that are grouped together that share one or more ads. That's what makes up a campaign is ad groups. You create the ads and then you review and launch it. And you just kind of basically hit submit and it starts and runs. So that's how you create a search campaign in Google Ads. And if we have time in a little bit at the end, I have my Sandbox account loaded up and I can actually kind of show you what it looks like. So once you've created your ad campaign, you can then start to work on improving your ads. So again, just to reiterate or review, what's in an ad? What's in a text ad? There are 3 headlines, 30 characters max, 2 description lines of 90 characters maximum, and a final URL that is the page that the ad is going to take people to once they click. And this is a screen capture of what it looks like when you create an ad in Google Ads. This is actually the 4th step of creating a new campaign. Once you've selected the campaign settings and set up your ad groups, this is the 3rd step, which is create the ads. And over here on the left, it looks similar to what it did for a smart campaign. You've got your headline fields and your description fields. And as you enter in the information over here on the right, it gives you a preview of what the ad would look like, in this case on a mobile phone. There's actually a button where you can toggle between desktop and mobile. Mobile is the default because more searches today happen on a mobile phone than on a desktop or laptop computer. So mobile is the default view here. And so what you do is you type in your text the way you want it to appear. And then when you're done, you can either hit done and create next ad if you want to create more than one ad at this time, or you would hit save and continue. And then you would review on the next screen. And if everything works right, you hit submit, and that's how you create the ad and run it in a search campaign. So some text ad tips for writing great ads. A great ad is relevant to the searcher's query. So for example, spices versus buy specialty spices. If I'm the spice house in this example, buy specialty spices is probably much more specific and a better ad, or pardon me, a better keyword for me. And if someone's query is buy specialty spices, I probably want to make sure that my ad is relevant to that query and speaks to the person that's typing that. So one way we can do that would be to include keywords in the ad text. So if I'm going to run on the keyword buy specialty spices, maybe the first headline would be buy specialty spices, right? Make it very relevant. One thing that we love in marketing and digital marketing is we love our CTAs, calls to action. So a good text ad will have a call to action, such as call now, order today. Interestingly enough, here it has call now exclamation point or order today exclamation point. Headlines cannot have exclamation points, but you can put them in a description. So you call now or order now could be a good headline. You just couldn't have an exclamation point in it. But you could have an exclamation point in the description. And if you want to get some more tips on writing effective ads, you can go to g.co/text ad tips, and they'll give you some more tips. But I'd say these are some of the most important ones. Make sure your ad is relevant to the keyword. Have the keywords in your ad text if you can, and try to have some kind of call to action so people know what they're supposed to do once they get there. If you want people to sign up for your newsletter, maybe you would say that in the 3rd headline or in one of your descriptions. I have software clients, for example, so a good 3rd headline might be request a free demo if we're wanting people to request a demo when they click through. More tips to improve your ad. Create focused ads and ad groups. Probably one of the most common mistakes that I see people do if they're doing this for the first time on their own is they might create one campaign and have one ad group with 50 or 100 keywords in it and one ad. It would be much better, for example, to break up those 100 keywords into 10 groups of like keywords and have a different ad for each group. Therefore, your ad relevance and your keyword relevance are much higher. And those 10 different ads could go to 10 different pages as opposed to sending everybody to your homepage, for example. Write simple yet enticing ads, test multiple ad variations, and then regularly review ad performance. About an hour ago, I was looking at one of my e-commerce clients, and when I say e-commerce, they sell product online, and in a certain ad group, one ad had a conversion rate of about 4%. The other ad only had a conversion rate of about 1.5%. So I paused the ad that had the 1.5% conversion rate because the other ad is literally converting more than twice as well. So that's what we mean by review your ad performance. And when you can test multiple ad variations, three ads or four ads at the same time, you can figure out which one performs best and then pause the others. So I have a question here. If I have a keyword spice, do I get results for a search on buy specialty spices? Yes, you could. Buy specialty spices, that keyword would limit you to buy specialty spices. One drawback of having the keyword spice is you could come up for all kinds of other things. And there's actually a slide coming up, Steve, where we're going to talk about that. And that's actually a very good example. But yes, you could come up when we think about match types. We're going to talk about that in a second. That is what you want to think about there. So we're actually going now into keywords. So that's a well-timed question. Search phrases for smart campaigns. For smart campaigns, accurate keyword themes generate relevant search phrases. So when you create a smart campaign, it's going to give you phrases and you can toggle them off. If there's some of these that you don't like, so this is assuming that this advertiser has started a smart campaign and that it's running, and that these are some of the phrases or search terms, the actual queries that their ad was served for. If some of these they don't want to show up for, they could toggle these off. In a search campaign, we call that a negative keyword. But that's the importance of words. So this goes right to your question, Steve. We're going to talk about match types for a second. And this slide is very important. So I'm going to take a little bit of time to talk about it. And a few years ago, this slide got a lot more complicated than it initially was. When you enter a keyword into Google Ads for a search campaign, the default match type is what they call broad. So we're going to talk about match types for search campaigns here for a second. So broad is the default. So in this example, if you type in spice, it says ads may show on searches that include misspellings, synonyms, related searches, and other variations. So broad, just like the term implies, it's going to give you cast the widest net. It's going to give a very broad interpretation of spice. Seasoning, for example, someone could do a search for seasoning. Well, spices and seasonings kind of are related, right? They might be synonyms of one another. So you could do a search for spice, and then if someone types in seasoning, your ad might show up. Now, spice in quotes is what we call phrase match. If you have any keyword, it doesn't have to necessarily be one keyword. It could be 2 words, 3 words. Air plants, hearing services, Cincinnati HVAC, whatever. If your keyword, whether it's one word or many, or is in quotes, that's called phrase matched. So historically, by putting your keyword in quotes, was supposed to limit it so that your ads would only show on searches that match that phrase. So if I ran the phrase Cincinnati HVAC, the way it used to work was Google would only show the ad if the term Cincinnati and HVAC in that order were in the person's query. So someone typed in Cincinnati HVAC companies and my keyword was Cincinnati HVAC in quotes, the ad would show. However, about 4 years ago, Google started adding in what they call variants or variations of that. So it kind of it broadened out the meaning of these match types a little bit. So be aware that you might also come up on variations of that, which you may or may not want to appear for. Exact. If the exact match type was, you put it in brackets. So using in this example, it's spice. To use my example, Cincinnati HVAC. If I typed in Cincinnati HVAC, the way exact match used to work, if someone typed in Cincinnati HVAC companies, my ad would not show because that's not the exact query that the person searched. However, Google's kind of loosened that up a bit, and it probably would. So just be aware that broad match and phrase match and exact match, the definition of what those are has changed over the years. And the more limiting you make it, the less often it shows. In other words, for less other queries it shows for. If you're going for reach, in other words, you want to get a lot of impressions and you want your ad to come up a lot, you could stick with broad match. If you're really focused on targeting your message and your advertising, you probably want to be more involved with phrase match keywords or exact match keywords. And then this is the final example here. It has a minus sign. They put minus girls. So that would be a negative keyword if you put a minus sign before the keyword. So that way, if someone did a search for Spice Girls, which is a totally different topic, not related to spices, that would keep your ad from showing. So if someone typed in Spice Girls video, Spice Girls CD, not that they're putting out new music lately, but maybe not that they're putting out CDs anymore for that matter, but you get what I mean. So that prevents you from showing on searches that include this term. Many times in life and in business, the same term can have totally different connotations in a different setting or in a different industry. Acronyms, for example, can mean two totally different things to do to two different people based on the industry. So you want to use negative keywords. And as you're going through and reviewing your results, if you saw a search term in your search term report that you didn't want your ad to show up on, you could make that a negative to prevent your ad from showing up on that term again in the future. So that's what a negative keyword is. So match types are very important, and they've gotten a little more complicated than they used to be. But that's what we mean by that. So the keyword planner tool is a tool within Google Ads under tools and settings that helps you discover new keywords, see monthly searches, determine your cost, organize your keywords, or develop new campaigns and new keywords to add. It is a tool within the Google Ads account. I use it all the time for doing keyword research for clients. So that's called the Keyword Planner. So in Google Ads, you would click on the wrench icon up at the top that says Tools and Settings, and then one of the selections will be Keyword Planner. On the Keyword Planner, you can put in a bunch of keywords, or you could put in the URL of your page, and it can crawl it for you. So for Little Prints, for example, I did that, and that's how I did some keyword prints for research for Little Prints, for example. So we're going to talk about ad extensions for a second. I've mentioned these before. There are many kinds of ad extensions that can expand your ad with additional information. Smart campaigns automatically offer call extensions, site link extensions, call out extensions, and location extensions. You can run those in a search campaign as well. These do not increase the cost of your campaign. There's no cost to use these. The only, now, if you get more clicks because you use them, therefore your cost goes up. But in and of itself, it doesn't cost you anything to add an extension. So I would encourage you to utilize these where appropriate. So a call extension is when you would put in your phone number and it would enable people to call you. A site link extension allows you to send people to different pages of your website that are different from the main page that the main ad points to. So for example, contact us. In this example on the right here, buy virtual gift cards or bestsellers. So if you're an e-commerce site and you've got a bestsellers page, that might be a real good site link extension. Call out are little phrases that you just want to call out or mention. And then location extension. If you do have a brick and mortar location and you want your address to show, you could use a location extension to list your street address. There are some other extensions that are available in search campaigns. Price extensions. So if you have specific prices for a product or service, you could enter them. And this is in this screen here. This shows a price extension. What they did is they put essential spices from $115, and then they've got a little 25 character description and then a final URL. So in this example, if I used Reckenberger, my client, again, maybe they do an AC tune-up. So if there's a specific price for an AC tune-up, you could list that here. And then people can actually scroll through these prices on their phone or on a desktop. You could list 3 or 4 prices. Promotion extensions. If you've got a sale coming up, particularly for a holiday, maybe you've got a Labor Day sale, you could put in a start date and an end date, and it would add a little price tag icon, and then you could have a little bit of information about your promotion. Structured snippet extensions. If you sell a particular brand of product or different models, if you have a distinct list of services that you provide, you could list those. Years ago, I ran ads for a tire retailer. So I listed brands and I put Cooper, Michelin, Bridgestone, that type of thing. App extensions. If you do have an app that you want people to download, you could add a link so that people could download it right from the ad as well. And then automated extensions. Sometimes one thing that Google's been doing a lot lately is adding location extensions for businesses. If your Google My Business account is linked to Google Ads, Google can automatically add your street address for you without you having to do it. So that's an example of an automated extension. So in terms of measuring success, we'll talk about that for a few minutes. Something to think about. What are your advertising goals and what do you want to accomplish? And do your ads help you reach these business goals? So rather than think about, well, let's run an ad, what is it you're really trying to accomplish? Are you trying to drive traffic to your site? Are you trying to drive sales, drive phone calls? Let these questions drive what type of campaign you run in Google and how you assess the effectiveness of it. If the primary goal of your campaign is to generate sales on your website, that should be the primary success metric as well. Not just, oh, hey, look, our primary goal is sales and we drove 5,000 people to our site. Nobody bought anything, but we drove 5,000 people to our site. That's different from your goal. So just be very mindful of what campaign type you're going to use and how you're going to evaluate your success. My suggestion is define success before you run the campaign. Have some goals going in. Once you have the campaign running, you can then maybe tweak your goals based on your results, but at least have a sense of what it is that you want. So some basic terminology here. Impressions are how many times your ad was displayed, whether it was clicked or not. So in digital marketing, we call that an ad impression. Clicks are when a user clicks on an ad. So then CTR, which isn't on the screen here, but that's simply clicks divided by impressions. So if you have 100 impressions, 5 clicks, your CTR or click-through rate would be 5%, which is 5 divided by 100. Conversions are when a click on an ad results in a desirable outcome, such as a purchase, a sign up, whatever you've set up as a conversion event in Google Ads or in analytics or whatever system you're using. If you are using something other than Google Analytics, by the way, such as HubSpot or Salesforce, you can import those goals into Google Ads. That's a little more involved and outside the scope of what we're going to talk about today, but that is possible. So reports and smart campaigns are fairly limited and simplified, but it will show you impressions, clicks, calls, and conversions if you do have conversion tracking set up. Here in the screen. In the Google Ads in general, and this is the first time we've actually had a screen in this presentation that kind of shows you expert mode in Google Ads. So in this example, this is the overview screen in Google Ads. And notice that the chart here at the top shows clicks, impressions, average CPC, and cost. You could actually change these to show some other different metrics. But this is the overview screen. So in search campaigns, you get much more detailed reports about ad groups, ads, landing pages, keywords, demographics, and more. So there's much more robust reporting in a search campaign or other campaign types outside of Smart within Google Ads. And when you go into a certain campaign or certain ad group, it will give you detailed stats for that specific campaign or ad group that you're viewing in the Google Ads interface. So key takeaway, much more robust reporting in a search campaign than in Smart. So as I may have mentioned earlier, you want to link your Google Ads account with Google Analytics. Google Analytics is free. There is a premium version, but very few companies that I've ever worked with have had the premium version. Almost everybody has the free version. You can link them. It's pretty simple to do. You can do it in Google Analytics. I'll actually tell you in the admin screen of Google Analytics, if you're in Google Analytics, click on admin in the very bottom left, and then you'll see a page that has your account column in the left, property column in the middle, view column on the right. Under property, you'll see an option that says AdWords linking. If you're using the same Google account address, once you click on Google Ads linking, it should list your Google Ads account there. Simply check the box, and there's a little option to import site metrics. Turn that on and hit save, and you just linked Google Ads and Analytics. And I might be able to show you, if you need help with that, just call me. I can help you do it. But they won't automatically be linked. You actually have to do it yourself. So anyway, that will help share data between the two services. So you'll be able to view Google Analytics data within Google Ads, and you'll be able to see Google Ads data within Analytics, which is very helpful. To set up Google Analytics, if you have not already, you can go to g.co/analytics, or you can go to analytics.google.com. You can create an account, it's free, and you can set up a property. One thing you might want to check is if you've already got Google Analytics on your site. You wouldn't want to create multiple accounts and create multiple codes. So anyway, it's pretty easy to set up a Google Analytics account. One of the other workshops in Grow with Google is focused on analytics. So maybe I'll do that at some point and record it. So we'll do a quick recap, and then we'll do some Q&A, some additional resources for you also. So reaching customers beyond Google search. And on this slide, Google's just kind of conveying that, you need a gift for a foodie friend. You can search for gift ideas. You can online reviews, discover a YouTube channel, you visit a site, you can watch a video on how to do mac and cheese, do another search, Gmail, you could do a sign up. The conversion would be if someone buys the spices online or in store, or if you send the spices to a friend. This just kind of gives you an idea of some of the different touch points where Google could be involved in the process. So as a marketer or advertiser, you could do a Google search campaign. You could do a display campaign that gets maybe on food related websites. You could do a video on how to spice up mac and cheese, for example, or that might be a good place for you as the Spice House, as the advertiser in this example, might be a good place for the Spice House to advertise. Just some different ideas there. So Grow with Google has some different programs, which are Google On Air, are virtual workshops. So someone else may have actually done this workshop, learn the basics of Google Ads, for example. You could watch them. When you watch them online, Google calls that Google On Air. So if you want to register for other workshops virtually, you could go to g.co/grow-on-air. That's g.co/grow-on-air and sign up for these free virtual workshops. People like me doing Grow with Google workshops around the country. g.co/grow-on-air. And by the way, I didn't mention this earlier, but if anybody needs the slides for this, let me know and I can send you the slides. And once this is posted, I'll send everybody, a link to the recording. I should have mentioned that earlier. My apologies. Google Primer also has some very basic marketing and business lessons. There is a free app that Google provides called Primer. You can download it at g.co/primer. It's available on Google Play for Android devices or from the App Store for iPhones or iOS devices. It's just got some simple little marketing and business tutorials. That's g.co/primer. And if you go to google.com/grow, that's the main Grow with Google page. There's resources there for teachers and students, for local businesses, for job seekers, and for developers. So there's different resources for those different buckets of audiences. So you can go to google.com/grow and you can find some different resources that are available there for each of those different folks. So that's the end of the formal presentation for today. And again, this was Learn the Basics of Google Ads. And I am Rob Bunting, your Google Ads guy. And I'm going to go ahead and get out of this. And if anybody has any questions now, I can open it up for Q&A. And if I have time, maybe I'll demonstrate something in the interface itself. So who has a question for me? Hopefully somebody. Or you can type it into the chat too. I know everybody's muted. So remember, you can push and hold the space bar to unmute yourself if you have a question.
I have a question. Has anyone in the group used Google Smart or Google Search or Google AdWords?
I think knowing the people on the call, Robbie, I know that I've got a couple people that are just about to start, but they haven't really started yet. Tom's helped me, I think, with a couple things over the years.
Old versions of it, back when it was AdWords.
Yeah, back in the days. So Google,
me too.
Yeah, Google AdWords started in 2001, and then Robbie, when you and I worked together, it was called AdWords, but yeah, and we did search and display. So we didn't do a smart campaign, but we did search and display campaigns. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I've been running Google ad campaigns since 2001. So yeah, it's been 20 years. Mm-hmm. Any other questions? I know I covered a lot of stuff. And if there's something that wasn't covered specifically in the presentation, but it's related to Google Ads, now would be a good time. Feel free. I can take a stab at it.
Is there a way to know what a good conversion rate is for your industry? Is there some way to know a goal?
Good question. Yeah, I would say that sometimes some of that data is available. Of course, it's all self-reported. So in other words, I've seen articles where different people have come out with quote unquote typical conversion rates per industry. So, and of course it can range. One of the difficulties is different people may have very different conversion events. So for example, in the case, now you're a consumer e-commerce company. So we would typically, define conversion as, did we make a purchase? That's the brass ring, so to speak. So I would say in that context, most places, consumer e-commerce conversion rates typically range from about 2 to, let's say, 6%. Some people might say 4 to 8. Part of that also comes down to is some advertisers try to be very targeted. And let's say I'm an advertiser and I know what my cream of my crop is. I'm just going to advertise on my 50 best keywords. That advertiser probably has a much higher conversion rate than another advertiser that says, I want to really grow my business and really be out there. They may only have a conversion rate of 1%. So, and then also different conversions. I've got a consumer e-commerce client that their typical order size is about $1,000. Their conversion rate's really low because it's a very high product price. So now if you've got a merchant that has an average ticket size or online order size of $30, I would expect that client to have a better conversion rate. But yeah, I would say a good rule of thumb, 2% and up. It's hard because when you think about it, 2% means 1 out of 50. So if at a 2% conversion rate, however you're defining conversion, 2%, it takes you 50 clicks to make a conversion. So in this example, if you're say paying $2 a click, 50 clicks times $2 a click, that's $100. Now, if you're a B2B, if you're an insurance company, if you're Geico, you're thrilled with a $100 conversion cost per conversion. If you're the Spice House in Chicago, you're probably not happy with a $100 price per conversion. So I think it comes down to your individual business. So knowing what your profit, if it's e-commerce, knowing what your profit margin is and what you're paying per click, and you might decide that, Our average order size is X. Our profit margin is 50%, so it's half of that. Can we get orders for less than that? If the answer is yes, you're making money. And that's one great thing about Google Analytics. I was actually looking at it for an e-commerce client earlier today. I'm looking at what's our revenue, what's our cost, what's our return on ad spend. And if that return on ad spend is over 100%, we're making money. If it's under 100%, we're losing money. So knowing your goals ahead of time. But as a general rule, I would say typically 2 to 6% for consumer e-commerce. In the B2B space, it might depend on, are you trying to make a purchase? Are you trying to get someone to sign up for a demo? But hopefully at least 1% in most instances. Some of my clients get much higher conversion. It really depends on how you define what a conversion is as well. But yeah, you could Google it. Industry conversion rates. Seriously, typical e-commerce conversion rates, and you'll find different articles over the years. Internet retailer, for example, usually comes out with data every year about what typical conversion rates are. For the Internet Retailer 50, which is the 50 largest internet retailers every year, they used to publish estimated conversion rates for the top 50 internet retailers. So that might help you. And then obviously if a advertiser, if a website has a lot of organic traffic or social media traffic, that affects their overall conversion rate. Typically for this discussion, we're talking about ads. So I hope that helps you. I mean, I don't know if there's one necessary right answer, but I think in your case, hopefully 2 or 3%. And if you're below that, it might be difficult to be profitable for most consumer e-commerce sites, in my opinion. Not impossible. It again depends on the numbers and what you're paying. Anybody else? I know we covered a lot. I know my clock says 4:07, so we've been going for about an hour, but does anybody else have another question? I know there's a lot that we didn't cover today, and this is meant to be a basic presentation, but I'm happy to take any other questions. Yeah, go ahead, Robbie.
I have a question for the speech and hearing folks.
Mhm.
What's your goal?
I don't know if Steve, or JB, if you're on, I see Steve is muted. I'll let them answer that. Go ahead, Steve.
Go ahead, Steve, if you want to.
Or
So,
JB, whoever wants to speak up for that.
I wanted to let the boss talk about this better.
Exactly. Good answer, Steve.
The number one, we would like to drive traffic to. So we're a 100-year-old nonprofit, 96-year-old nonprofit, and I don't think that we're very well known. We are competing with a lot of for-profit audiologists in the area, and we would like to raise our public profile and all of the things that go along with that, not the least of which is driving traffic to the website, and among other things. So we provide audiology services and sell hearing aids. So hearing aids, at least for now, are a pretty big margin product, probably the largest margin product that we have. So that's an easy target to identify. But we have lots of services in each of the areas in our name. And here, that's audio. I spoke about hearing, the audiology piece, but we have speech therapy and occupational therapy that we offer, and that is a different profit profile because in audiology we might see a patient once or twice a year or once or twice every few years. In speech therapy we might see a patient once a week for 40 or 50 times over a year. So I think part of the problem is that we have so many different goals. It's hard to focus ourselves on a single point, which I think that we need to do.
Right. So yeah, almost every site I've ever worked with over 20 plus years, for almost every one of them, not always, but probably 95+% of them, the number one source of traffic to their site is Google, whether it's free traffic or paid traffic. So if someone says, I want to get more people to my website, Google's the logical place to start. So in the case of the Hearing, Speech and Deaf Center or another nonprofit, typically they don't have a lot of large ad budgets. So, right. Or they have no ad budget at all or marketing budget. So trying to get more exposure and particularly be found and so raise awareness so that you can come up for different keywords related to the services and products that they provide. So a Google Ads for a nonprofit, they could do a Google Ad Grant account, and potentially they could also do an ad grant account if they wanted to do other kinds of campaigns, or if they wanted to bid more than they're allowed to do in an ad grant campaign, they could do a paid for account. I have one of my clients is St. Vincent de Paul of Cincinnati. They have an ad grant account, and then they also have another account where they bid on keywords that they can't afford to run on in their ad grant account. So they're able to promote other services that way. So that's a very common, and that's totally cool. Google will allow that, as long as you abide by the parameters of each type of account. So different, but generally speaking, drive more traffic to your site, be found in Google, drive more calls, drive more sales or sales leads. And in case of awareness or reach, that's where a display or a video campaign might make more sense. So in the case of the Cincinnati Chamber, we used to do banner campaigns to promote Oktoberfest and things of that nature. Anybody else have a question before we wrap up today? Yes, Tom, did you have a question?
Yeah, this was a great first step. A great way to learn how to grow with Google. What would be a viable next step as far as additional courses or
Okay.
working with an expert? You know of any experts we can work with?
Yeah, me.
Okay.
Thank you. And yeah, well, in all seriousness, call me. My website is called the Czar for a reason. But have questions about that, I can certainly direct you on where to go. In terms of working with an expert, I'm a premier Google partner and I can help you. I'm also happy to help teach. I try to educate my clients so that they understand how this works. In some cases, I kind of set things up for folks and then they take it from there. Online, Google offers the resources that I had in the presentation. Also, there is Google Skills Shop, where you can watch the training videos with respect to Google Analytics or Google Ads. In Google Analytics, there's Google Analytics Academy. If you go to the Discover page within Google Analytics, one of the options is Analytics Academy, and it's a bunch of videos on how to use Google Analytics. So I highly recommend that. YouTube. Google Ads has a channel on YouTube. So there are a lot of tutorial videos. And a lot of experts and professionals do their own tutorial videos. If you go onto YouTube, you can find them. But again, you could subscribe to the Google Ads channel or just see the official ones from Google Ads or analytics for that matter. So those would be some good places to learn more than we were able to cover today. And all those are free, by the way. Nothing I mentioned costs money. So that's all free stuff. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop recording. I want to thank everybody for coming today. I'm just going to stop the recording. And again, if you want to learn more, you can call me 513-549-3882.